welcome to my nightmare. Today we have part 3 of the amazing tale He Called Himself Sleep, written by the user TheRealDannySugar. Now, as always, please sit back, relax, and enjoy. It was all black. It was a void, and I was floating upward, like a string pulling me by my head. My feet were on a solid surface, but I was unable to move. One by one, as if poured by paint, all the boys from the sleepover 10 years ago started circling around me. Once all 12 stood around me, then one by one they all burst into flames. I was then surrounded by burning piles of ash, and again, as if they were liquid, they pulled all back to the position in front of me, then started filling in to other shapes from the bottom up. I quickly recognized my father. I wish I could say something, anything. He looked defeated as the image of him was completed. He pulled out a gun and put it next to his head. I wish I could yell or shout or stop him, but he pulled the trigger. All the viscera, gore and bones exploded out of him and started pulling the image of him. It was like a hose spraying, and where all the gore and the rest of him landed started to form another image from the bottom to the top. It was my mother. She abandoned me, gave me to Rita. Was it for her safety? Was the cross too heavy for her to bear? She looked panicked and disheveled. Her long brown hair was matted with leaves and twigs. The flowers on her dress were stained with mud. Her knees looked scuffed and bruised. I saw her running, then every so often changing direction. She was being chased by something or someone. My mother stopped. Someone had grabbed her hair and was pulling her upwards. A small slice appeared on her forehead with surgical precision. It went all the way around and yanked her scalp. A thick layer of her skin came off, revealing a skull with blood pooling around it. Her eyes turned jet black as she fell to her knees. With a huge, blunt impact, the unforeseen force cracked into her skull, cracking it like a watermelon. Bits of skull fragments floated softly into the void. She slumped over into a heap. Again, as if she was liquid, her image was being sucked from the bottom to the top of her. Once she was a torso laying slumped over. I could see worms being poured out from her skull. A single, a couple, a dozen. Then it was a mass of wriggling worms, wriggling next to my mother's face, all soaked in blood and her brain matter. It was as if they were absorbing all the paint, all the colors, all the beauty from her. Then, like everyone else in this nightmare, she was gone. All that remained was a pile of pulsating worms. The worms formed two separate piles and began growing upwards, shifting and moving. They began to form legs. And once legs began forming, clothes began forming over that, and I immediately recognized Grandma Rita. When they reached the waist, I noticed a crack of light beginning to form where the torso should be. A slender light in the void, and the legs paused briefly while forming. They continued, forming Rita, going up, but as they reached the midsection, the crack became larger. The headless body of Grandma Rita began branching away from the light. It was a misshapen tree growing around a gravestone. The body tried becoming a cage around the crack and connected up to the neck. I felt my whole being, in essence, being pulled. Then a firm hand grasped my shoulder, and I was suddenly real within this nothingness.
You will never. I will give you the sleep you always wanted.
A familiar voice cajoling me to stay. I heard something different from sleep's voice. It's always been a beautiful cathedral choir of warmth, snaking its way through my eyes. Now there's a thin layer of panic, concern. I'm feeling more grounded as I'm staring at this abomination in front of me. The crack is growing larger, but it's still inside this birdcage of Grandma Rita. Far into the distance, I'm seeing something different, something grounded in more reality than what I am experiencing. I see William. I could barely make out anything else because the images were coming at me like a cartoon flip book. My focus began moving forward into the image, but the hand on my shoulder began tightening. Sleep didn't want me to go towards William. I needed to figure out how to move. I focused on where my feet were planted. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Ankle flexing, extension, muscles needed to work. I felt a strange dream, inducted momentum followed by simultaneously pulling and pushing. The center of my chest was being pulled into the light, then my legs, then my free shoulder, my face. The long slender fingers began shaking on the other shoulder. In a brief instant, I lifted both hands up and grabbed what I could of Sleep's hand and arm. A pop, and I fell into the passenger seat of William's car. William screamed as he saw me come to. We were in the car barreling down a pitch-black highway. The clock read 3 a.m.
What the hell happened? What was that?
I wiggled my extremities and noticed I was clutching onto something. A long, slender arm attached to a chunk of shoulder. My hands widened in fear. William kept shouting. I felt the car drifting from side to side.
Slow down! Focus on the road!
I screamed back at him. The car began righting itself and William started to slow down.
I dragged you into my car. You just crumpled. I'm trying to get as far away as possible. We're almost to the next state over. I don't know what to do except the ritual. I don't know. William shouted faster than the speed of the car. He didn't finish his train of thought because the arm in my lap leaped towards the wheel and sharply pulled to the right. Immediately, we drove off the road and began rolling. Our bodies became the victim of gravity as we were thrown around violently. I was thrown through the windshield and hit the ground hard. It was all hazy, but I don't remember what happened to William. I must have been knocked out for some time, because I woke up in a concussed daze. The car was ablaze. I opened my eyes and stared up at the night sky. The fire crackled and danced around me. My head pounded, thump, thump, thump. I felt like there was a huge puddle collecting in my chest. I couldn't move my right arm, so very gingerly I took my left hand and touched it. It was cold and sticky. I'm going to die. Sleep promised me the sleep I always wanted. I closed my eyes and was at peace with the universe. My eyes shot open. I heard sirens, footsteps, shouting. Sir, are you okay? Can you hear me? A man's voice boomed over me. It rang over me, shaking me to alertness. Something compelled me to sit up. The pain had left my body. From the sitting position, I rose to standing. The medic froze mere feet away from me. Sir, you need to lay back down. You have been in a terrible accident. You are at risk of injuring yourself further. I felt something was wrong. Something was off. My right arm, acting on its own volition, shot forward and grasped the man by his throat. The fingers wrapped so easily around his neck, I couldn't feel it. In the glow of the siren lights, I could tell that there was something wrong. It was pure black. Slender fingers. I looked down at my right side and screamed. One arm lay still, but there was another attached to my shoulder. I heard more shouting and screaming from the other medics.
I am asleep. Now I walk the earthly realm.
Wow. And that's the end of the 3-part series. Now, by the sound of that, we may get a sequel, which I would most definitely look forward to. But otherwise, I feel it left off in a very intense way. As always, thank you very much for sitting through my narration. And if you would like to hear more of my storytelling or sharing of my nightmares with you all, then please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Alternatively, if you want to talk to me,
supply me with your own stories or tales, you can find my information in my link tree in the description. It's got everything: Twitter, Instagram, and a link to a Discord server that I've set up. So, I won't hold you up any longer. We've pushed this one out long enough. So be safe wherever you are. Have a good night or day. And this is Grim. And I'm signing off.